Hi everyone, it's Bren here and welcome to this week's garden update where we are now in the third week of spring. And I'm telling you, this week I have been a busy little bee buzzing around getting so many jobs done in the garden, which I'll show you now. But before we get into that, I just wanted to ask, would you be able to share any YouTube channels who have just entered spring like I have here in New South Wales, Australia? So any garden channels that are in the southern hemisphere that you think other viewers watching this video may enjoy, you can just pop the name below. So really anywhere, say here in Australia, New South Wales, the Sydney Basin where I'm from, or even New Zealand, South Africa, South America, you name it, anywhere in the southern hemisphere. Let's see if we can find some good channels, especially for you guys who are coming into the cooler months now and you'll need your gardening fix to get you through the cold weather. Okay, let's go take a look around. This week I've spent quite a bit of time over here where the raised garden beds are. One big job that I've made a start on is mulching all the pathways. I'm still using this old wheelbarrow which was given to me by my kids' great grandma. Last year I was planning on converting it into a planter, but you know what, it's still fit for purpose. I know it's got a gaping big hole in it, but I've been using this little wire mesh to cover that up, and it still manages to hold in a lot of bark and mushroom compost that I've been using to transport around the garden. Like just over here where I have covered the main pathway, I've also put back up the old post box where I store my tools and bits and pieces that I might need when I'm working in this area. What have I got in here at the moment? Let's see. Oh, there's a trowel, bit of twine, and over there in the corner is a Sharpie pen. Just in case you're wondering why I have a Sharpie pen, I use it to write the names on the tags when I'm sowing seeds. In the past, I've used pencils and pens to write out the labels, but I found after a while, as the water gets on them, they tend to fade and it can really leave you in a pickle, not being able to tell which plants are which. So in my experience, a permanent marker seems to be the best option. I'm back over at the raised garden bed area to share with you a little time-saving tip when it comes to mulching your pathways. You can see over here that I still need to lay down some bark in this section, which has quite a few weeds. You do have a few options. I could just get a wheelbarrow of bark, put it straight over this, try and make it fairly thick, and that may help suppress the weeds, but I find summertime, oh, they're just ferocious, and I reckon if I just cover these up, they would come back and they'd be popping through all of this bark in no time. So for me, what I do is I need to get rid of them. I could just hand pick them out, but I don't want to waste my time doing that, especially when you have a large area. So a solution that I found works really well is to lay down cardboard over the entire section and then come in and cover it with some of this bark. This cardboard will block out all the sunlight, killing off these weeds. Plus a bonus is it will eventually break down and start to feed the soil beneath. I use cardboard all the time in my garden, so whenever it comes into the house I save up a stash of it, and I use it for projects like this when I'm remulching pathways, or even when I'm trying to create new garden beds. I put a layer of cardboard down over the grass and it just saves me so much time and effort. Last week I said I'd show you this Pandoria plant again once there were more flowers on it. And they sure have opened up. Look at these absolute gorgeous clusters of bell-shaped flowers. It's a real super Australian native climber to grow for a mass flower display in springtime. I've been really looking forward to showing you down here in the fan garden. Do you remember about a week and a half ago we had a tree removed from this section, and I had to come in here and dig up all of the plants that I had only put in here about a month ago? Well, this week I managed to pop them back into the ground. I did a bit of rearranging so they're not in the same rows as they were before. So here you have some Achillea. I think it's about 8 plants or so in this little patch. There's a few different colours. I've got some yellows, pinks and whites. Put the gladioli back in, and behind them I have a mullein, and over here is an echinops. I actually had 2 of those plants, but I didn't even notice until I was taking them out of the containers to put them back in the ground that this one was looking very I'm not going to say dead, but pretty sad looking. I still popped it back in here into the soil, hoping that it may, just have gone into a bit of shock. It might sprout back up. Hopefully it will. And over in the row beside them, I have the lilies back in the ground. Behind them I have some hollyhocks and the lemongrass here, which I actually didn't remove from this area. They stayed in here and they seem to be fine. And then a few new plants in this section are just in here. They're very tiny at the moment, but these are snapdragon seedlings. I still have this whole section to fix up. As you can see, haven't quite decided what to pop in the ground in here, but I know I change my mind all the time. I know I do that, but at the moment I'm currently thinking over here I'm going to dedicate this whole row to zinnias, and then this section here is going to be full of dahlias. I'm over here by this Barrage patch, and so are a couple of the girls. You've got Snowflake and Autumn. It looks like Autumn has found something interesting down there because she's been scratching away for a little bit. What are you looking for? Oh, what are you doing? Here comes Snowflake. I just spotted something over here that I hadn't noticed this morning. Look, a random sock. What is that doing there? Like, honestly, in this garden I find the strangest things. Maybe it blew off the clothesline, but it's looking pretty grumpy. Amongst the barrage I can see little speckles of white and pink. If you take a look just down there and up here too, the apple blossom flowers are just beginning to bloom, and there's a few more over here near the sock. You can just see them there. I reckon it will only be maybe a couple of weeks and this entire tree will be absolutely covered in blooms, and if I come anywhere near it, it will just be buzzing with bees. Did you know with most apple trees you actually need 2 different varieties for them to pollinate? And ideally they should both be blooming at the same time. So this one you're looking at is actually my second apple tree near the raised garden bed area. We have some buds on this one, which is a Granny Smith variety. Both of these trees do bloom at the same time. And you can see here, I know it's a bit shiny and glary, but they're both planted pretty close to each other. They'll cross-pollinate no problem, and I always get an abundance of fruit each year. This is the wattle that had its main branch damaged in that storm we had a couple of weeks ago, which was the same storm that damaged the Grevillea robusta that needed to be removed. Well, you know what else is after happening? I don't know when exactly this happened, but another branch snapped off. Well, not completely, I had to saw it off. But this one's a bit more concerning because it's right down here at the beginning of the trunk. I am thinking, like, look at that, look how deep it is. I am thinking I might just cut my losses and remove the whole tree. Here's a garden bed that I have out the front near the post box, which I created a few years ago. In the centre I have this cute little statue of maybe a brother and sister. What do you reckon? We're looking at it this week because all of these flowers are in bloom. I believe they are Japanese irises, but I've never actually been able to officially identify them. One of my neighbours down the road gave me a clump of these maybe 3 years ago, and I just divided it up, popped them into this space, and they're really starting to fill out nicely. Look how long their stems are, and they just keep on flowering. As one bloom fades away, a fresh one opens up. I have them growing here in this semi-shaded spot, and they seem to be really happy. I might even be at the stage now where I can start dividing them up and spreading some maybe to the back garden. Look at this. Look who's back in town, snails. But not to worry, because I have a garden friend who has moved in. He or she will take care of these. I actually managed to record him earlier on in the week. Let's take a look now. How sweet was that little guy? Well, I've just picked a bunch of these Japanese irises to bring inside to the kitchen. They're very floaty. I'm not sure if that's the right word to use when it comes to cut flowers, but oh, aren't they pretty? I'm just sitting here underneath the shade near the back door. My neighbour's got the mower on, so I hope you can hear me. And I'm also here with all the girls because they've made their way to the very back door, and one day I swear what's going to happen is they're going to fly straight into the house. Anyway, that's about it for this week. Thanks so much for watching, everyone. See you next Friday.